You found Why We Are Christians. My name is Kent Philpott, and we're at a table with a bunch of ex-Jesus freaks. Jesus freaks. Remember we used to get called Jesus freaks?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, at first I was sort of offended, but after a little while, but here's some key ones right here. Mary and Kenny Sanders, Jeanine Kelly and Kenny Hopkins, and I can't help but all of our names, us guys, all start with K-E-N. Now, my mother named me after Superman. I don't know about you. I'm glad she didn't like the name Clark. Okay. Anyway, so what we're going to be doing on our program, we're going to be talking about a trip that all of us made in 1971 in a Chevy Beauville van. It was big. You hardly ever see vehicles as big as that. That was a great big thing. There were 9 of us, weren't there?
At least. Yeah.
Seemed like 13.
No, there were 9 of us. We had all of our equipment,
Right.
all of our sleeping stuff. We had
Yeah.
stuff. I saw a picture. I've got a picture of us standing in front of the van. And so what happened was, to get the story moving here, is we were invited by the city of Atlanta, Georgia, to do drug abuse assemblies in all the high schools in Atlanta, Georgia. We were trying to figure out, Jeanine, weren't we, the other day, how we got that invitation. Who did that? I'm not sure. I think I know. But I know that Dr. Francis DeBose, professor of evangelism and missions at Golden Gate Baptist Seminary, he set us up with places all the way along to Atlanta, church after church after church after church, there and back. And then we stopped at every university and handed out literature, all the schools that we came to. And we did that. Then we went to Atlanta. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, Mary, I'm going to start with you again.
Okay.
What do you remember about the Atlanta trip?
Well, mostly I remember going to the high schools and being at assemblies and sharing my faith and getting time to talk to a lot of the students. And it was a really wonderful experience, just being able to share with so many young people about who Jesus was.
And it was our band Joyful Noise. We were a band.
We were singing, yeah. But
We
we
were a
got to
band,
give
yeah.
we got to share a little bit about our faith after or along with the singing. And so it kind of went hand in hand. The singing was part of it, and then sharing of all of us had different experiences as to how we became Christians, and so we got to share that with many people, and it was a wonderful time. It was it brought a lot of life to everybody.
How did we sleep? Did we stop at motels along the way or campgrounds? What? I mean, I know it was in October because coming back we went
Yeah.
through a snowstorm.
Yeah.
We didn't stay in
Remember the
hotels.
snowstorm?
Yeah.
I think
I
in
do.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did we sleep? Did we sleep in motels or what? What you remember, Jeanine?
I remember one night we slept in a Baptist parking lot in Mississippi,
Oh, wow.
and the guys slept outside, and the girls got to sleep on the seats, and we had no money, so we couldn't stay in a motel, and so
I forgot about the no money part.
yeah,
We didn't make any money on this.
Yeah, we had no money, so Kent says, "Oh, well, these are Baptists; they won't care." So we pulled up, and I just remember thinking, "Here's a bunch of hippies, and us girls are inside going, we're just waiting for the guy that's the overseer of the church to come and point his shotgun at one of the guys laying on the ground, going, 'What are you hippies doing in our parking lot?'" You know, but.
Even so, we felt that the church was the safest place to be.
Yeah. Well, we were in Mississippi, but I do remember one real funny story about eating, and we were in the town that Elvis was born in,
Tupelo,
Tupelo,
Tupelo, Mississippi.
and we were hungry, and we had very little money, and Kent was like counting his money. And so we pulled into this old gas station, and he asked them if there was any place we could get an all-you-could-eat place, you know, and how much it would be. And they go, an all-you-can-eat place? Well, you know, and so they pointed to some place down the road and gave him directions and said, you know, they'll give you all you can eat, you know. So we drive up, and it's like this huge junkyard. And we're all sitting there looking at it going, there's a restaurant in there, you know? And Kent goes, well, let's just get out and we'll check it out. You girls stay here. We'll go check it out. And I don't remember who went with you, but a couple of you went in and you said, you've got to come in. You've got to come in.
I remember the place.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
It was beautiful.
So we all went inside, and there's this beautiful restaurant where they serve this old fried chicken and mashed potatoes and homemade rolls and
Grits.
everything that you
I'm
could
getting
think
hungry
of.
listening to you.
Just everything you could think of, and they just gave it to us. And then they asked us where we were from and what we were doing there, and so we told them, you know, we were traveling and we were singing for Jesus, and they asked us to play, and we got up and played.
I didn't remember that.
They,
No,
Do you remember that, Mary?
so we so we got up and played just acoustically, and we paid for our food. But as we were leaving, they gave us these big buckets full of leftover food, and it's like we didn't have that much leftover food, but they just loaded us up with
What a
fried
blessing.
chicken
God's
and all
blessing
kinds
right
of,
there. God's
you know,
blessing.
just all kinds of food. And
You know, it's
but
interesting.
that was
I don't.
one of my favorite stories about what happened.
Thank you, Jeanine. I remember the place. I can see it. We sat at a big table in like the center of the place. Kenny, what were you saying?
I was saying it's odd, but I don't really remember the hardship, you know. And I'm sure we went listening to you talk about it, but I don't recall the hardship. I just recall, you know, standing in front of people and singing, you know, amongst hundreds, if not thousands, of high school students in this one gymnasium, and handing out tracts, you know, in the marketplaces and things
Oh
like
yes,
that.
we did a lot of handing out of tracts. I have to agree. I guess I didn't remember the difficult times.
What it was for me, it was, you know, I was raised in a very typical middle class family, and what it did for me was it showed me that God pours out his blessings on his people. And that everywhere we went, you know, even if we didn't have money, we didn't starve. You know, we always had food. We always had you know, provisions were there. There was one other place I remember that was a chicken place, and they did the same thing, only we had no money at this place. And we went in, and Kent told them what we did, and they said, come play for us. And we went in and played for them, and they gave us food and sent us on our way.
Do you mind?
Well, no, I do remember. So Mary and I were newly married. We got married September 5th in
Yeah.
71, and so we deferred getting a place. And when we came back, we had to stay with two friends in their twin bed in his ham radio room. But prior to that, we were painting. I think it was you and me and Christina. And you.
Yeah.
And so
We were house painters.
We're house
Yeah.
painters, saving up for the initial part of the trip. So I know we had money when we started, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We saved up money.
I don't think money was an issue. I don't think we really thought about. It never concerned me.
I think you're right, Mary.
It wasn't like, oh, I'm worried. Are we going to have enough food to eat? Or it never really.
Never
my
came
mind.
up.
Yeah, it never really was an issue. But of course, we were with so many generous people. We stayed in people's homes. I
yeah.
remember in
That's
Atlanta.
true. That's true.
Yeah, we never
yeah.
starved.
No,
Right.
no.
And I'm glad that they gave us food instead of throwing it at us.
Well, we were the joyful noise, and we were that for a reason.
Just listen to that name.
We made a lot of noise, but people liked the noise we made. So
Yeah, and it was not joyful music, noise.
Yeah, right.
It was noise, except for Kenny. Okay.
Yeah,
We're going to end the program with the story about Kenny. And the last day that I think we will all remember. I'll never forget it. So anyway, what happened? we went to Atlanta, Georgia, and they'd never seen San Francisco Bay Area kinds of people like us. Now, we didn't look really, now you were the only guy that looked wild, Kenny. Now, I got a picture. Now, come on.
Long hair. I don't know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
wild.
Well, it was wild. I mean, he didn't
For you
comb
it
it
was
for
wild.
months, you know.
You wild guy, you. You
But
animal.
but we literally went to all of these schools, and we were so well received, well received, and so it took us 3 weeks to get to all the high schools. Usually 2 a day. I think once there was 3 a day. Once a couple times there was 1, and the administrators and the teachers and the kids were so polite to us, so polite to us. I was astonished. I remember Emory University. Remember Emory?
Oh, yeah.
In Atlanta? We went there and played. Nobody invited us. We just did. We just went there. There was a number of schools that we stopped at. Where was the school when we showed up and they called the cops on us? And then they relented when they found out we were Christians, and they let us play. We do this, and we'd go to different congregations that Dr. DeBose had set up for us, and we had a schedule, and we met it. And
Yeah, people were all very respectful, and people wanted to know about Jesus and what the thing was with Jesus, what the deal was. So
Let's do it again.
Yeah, there you go.
Anybody got a van?
We have no money.
Back where we started.
Yeah.
yeah, you
I'm
wonder
sorry,
what had
I
happened
didn't-
if
No,
you
no,
did
that
that
was
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if our environment now has changed, if people don't seem quite as interested. Now it's, in fact, I have actually spoken to a couple kids recently on the street in Petaluma, asking them if they wanted to go to church with me and if they knew anything about God and Jesus. Both of them, it was quite interesting. They said, no, I don't know anything about it. And but they weren't interested enough for me to stay and talk to them for very long.
Yeah.
One was drinking, and the other one was really involved with his iPad or his iPhone or something.
Uh-huh.
But I found do people now not really understand? When we were there, I guess there was the South has a certain Christian bent, but so people were open to wanting to hear our stories, which I thought was really
That's
good.
very interesting, Mary. All it takes is one generation
Yeah.
of not teaching your kids about the Bible and about Jesus for the whole world to become a mission field again.
The same thing happened after the Christians from Europe, particularly England, came to America to escape religious persecution and so on. And after that, there was a tremendous decline through the late 60s, early 1700s, until the First Great Awakening began. And all of a sudden, the culture changed in its openness to the gospel. Same thing happened Second Great Awakening. Same thing happened in the Jesus People movement. We're going through a normal time. We pray for another great outpouring of the Holy Spirit, and that it takes that to change it. Right now we have I see an anti-Christian bias present, particularly where we live here in California, and I'm sure in other places. But maybe there'll be another awakening. So who knows?
I sort of live in the southern belt of California, I guess, because down there we still have, a lot of church activity, and people are still very, very conservative about the way they look at things. But it's changing quickly. And being close to Fresno State, of course, anytime you're near a university, you've always got the teachers and the people that are pushing, the more liberal,
Agenda.
agenda. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the word I was looking for. Is onto our children. And so again, we've got to be careful and make sure our children are raised with that seed at least, because they need the seed to grow. And I think part of what happened was a lot of kids didn't get that seed, and so they're like, it's just another religion. It's just another religion.
That's true.
And so I think that's one of the things that is a real difference from the time during the Jesus movement. It was like a lot of us came from homes where there was a seed, at least. We may not have all followed it, but there was a seed.
That's right.
My position in that Jesus movement group at the Joyful Noise was basically as the little Polly Pure Heart, that really didn't do anything. I never smoked, never drank, never smoked pot, I was the one that got up there and said, I knew Jesus all my life, but Jesus doesn't have any grandkids, and that was my testimony, that we each had to make a decision on our own. And so that's what I see. And I see now that there's no seeds being planted. It's like everybody just kind of goes their own way, and churches are getting smaller instead of bigger, and
Now, one thing we did talk about, Jeanine, the other day, and maybe you guys would help me. I mentioned I was going to say this. Did we stop at the University of Texas in Austin on our way?
I believe we did.
Okay.
Or on the way back.
Oh, was it on the way back?
I
the way
thought
back.
it was on the way back, yeah.
We got invited by the Baptist Student Union at the University of Texas in Austin. They had a religious week, right? And we were going to go there, and also the group from Calvary Chapel called Love Song was going to be there. And do you remember that, Kenny?
Yes.
And we would play. We had 5 of these scheduled, and we'd be playing, and almost nobody would show up, and so we'd end up at the Love Song thing, because we were. You could have called us a jug band and been accurate. Okay, we did have you, Kenny. We did have you. We had to Never Get to Heaven. We had Holy Joe by Greg, and
You'll Never Get to Heaven on LSD.
yeah, we had some songs that were some interest, but the contrast between us, and we were right at the point where there was the emergence of a change in music. Among Christian people in America. Although we had done it, but we were sort of like, people got upset when Bob Dylan started playing electric. Okay, well there was something similar, here we were, and we played just old funky, although we would, plug it in a little bit, but nothing wild and crazy. But we did do that at the University of Texas, and we slept in fraternity houses, as I remember. Didn't we?
Yes.
In fraternity houses there? Or at the Baptist Student Union. I bet it was a Baptist
Well,
student
I know
union.
I shared a room with a girl.
Oh,
There
did
was
you?
a girl in my room.
Yeah, I don't remember where I slept.
I remember sleeping in a room in a sleeping bag with all kinds of people around, toe to toe kind of thing.
Wow.
At the University of Texas at Austin, but going to the high schools was something. But there's another story. Let's see if you guys remember. We also got invited to a liberal arts, music-oriented college in Rome, Georgia.
Okay.
Remember that?
I remember
In
the name
Rome?
because I thought Rome, it was.
Okay,
I
we
think of the
drove
building.
south of Atlanta, and we came to this place, and they had this incredibly ornate.
It was a music auditorium.
A huge auditorium that was looked like it was been there about 200 years, gorgeously. It was beautiful, and so here we come, and here's these people that are music majors and so on. Beautiful campus. It was a nice sunny day. I remember that a green field. Remember we were out. I think we played a little catch or something. We did something, and we had a nice lunch in their cafeteria. So help me with this. So we go in there and we're getting ready, right? And remember Malcolm Dawes? He was our lead. He played lead guitar. He had diarrhea, and we couldn't get him out of the bathroom. We couldn't get him out of the bathroom. Remember that, Kenny?
No, I don't.
No, okay. So we're up there on the stage, right? And the place is filling with people, hundreds and hundreds of these people in this beautiful auditorium.
We were a band, and they were a music school. They were looking forward to us.
And so we're up there, and I don't know what to do. Everybody's there. They announced us. No, Malcolm. I actually got off down the stage, walked to the bathroom, and says, Malcolm, can you come? He couldn't come out. So I went up there to the stage, and I pick up my guitar, and I hit somehow my low egg string. It broke.
Oh.
And so I handed it down to Gary Bartholomew. He kind of was our roadie, you know, to put another string on. So I'm trying to talk to these people. Do you remember this at all?
Mm-mm.
You don't remember, Kenny?
I can see why you remember it, though.
Yeah,
right.
And why do I remember it?
Yeah.
Comedy of errors. Man.
Oh,
I
so
know,
anyway,
lots
he
of
hands me
jazz.
the guitar back, and I strum, and it breaks the E string again, same string.
Oh my goodness.
That
So-
I almost remember, but
Huh?
that I almost remember.
You almost remember that. What did
Sounds
we
familiar.
do then?
At that point, we put the guitars down, and we sang a cappella,
Oh, is that
and they
right?
loved it.
Okay.
In fact, I was going to say the cafeteria incident was after the concert, because when we went back to eat in the cafeteria, they couldn't stop talking. Everybody wanted to talk to us.
That's true.
You know, they all were trying to get in and get their
Star is
conversations.
born.
You know, and it was all because the guitar strings kept breaking. We knew nothing about
Who'da
Malcolm.
thunk?
We just knew the guitar strings were breaking.
Poor Malcolm, I felt bad for him. You know, he couldn't help it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just stuck in the bathroom. But what we did, and by the way, I'd like to make it clear, we just didn't play music. We were there to present the gospel of Christ.
Right.
And what we did, and you all did this, we'd play a couple songs, somebody'd go to the microphone and preach. Give a testimony like we did like we did before.
Yeah.
That's all we did. A simple testimony, played a couple songs, we just, you know, we could go for quite a while. We had about 10, 12 songs we could play. That was about it. We had a very, very limited repertoire, I tell you, very limited. Maybe 12 songs. And so we'd go to, we do that with the testimonies. But I remember how well received that was. That wouldn't happen today.
Right.
That would not happen. To me, it's always been a demonstration of the power of the Holy Spirit to prepare people to open the doors. And but we don't have that era anymore. So we went to the high schools, and now I'm going to get to your story, Kenny. You guys have to remember this. It was the last high school there, our last day. And it was a first period class, and we got lost. We got lost. We found the high school. We pulled up to the gym, back door of the gym, backed the van up, opened the door, and the place was filled with kids. First period, they were all there. There was not a sound. We opened the door, and all of us, we get out and we take what stuff we had, you know, out there, a couple of little amps, microphones attached to the amps, our guitars, probably out of tune. and there they are, and nobody said a word to anybody. I don't think anybody greeted us at the door. I opened the door, big doors. We go in, and we're about at a basketball circuit, you know, the key and one of the keys, and we're there, and I got people all around us. And finally I realized we can't get this done. It's not going to work. We can't get anything tuned, et cetera, et cetera. So I walked to Kenny and I said, Kenny, just get up and play Jesus, Jesus. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
So you did. You walked up and you played that song. Do you remember you doing that?
Yeah.
Now here's this guy. He's got this blonde hair, this very good-looking young man. And he plays this very sweet little song. Jesus, Jesus, when I hear that golden name. It's just by himself. We're just sitting back. There's nothing we can do. Right in the middle of the song, the bell to announce before you sang, a bell rang. They had a double bell system that you got a few minutes later. Toward the end of your song, Kenny, the second bell rang. The second bell rang. And you just kept going. Nobody moved. I'll never forget it. Nobody moved. They had the administrators, they had all the teachers there. That was the only thing. It was nothing. You finished and you backed away. I didn't know what to do. So I walked up to the microphone and I said, if anybody here wants to be a follower of Jesus, please stand up.
Just like
Everybody in the place stood up.
Oh, goodness.
Wow.
2,000 to 3,000 kids. 2,000 to 3,000. That was all that was said. I went back. I didn't know what to do. There was nothing else to do. Those kids had to leave. And finally, they began to file out. They began to file out. And then we had people come down and talk to us. The kids had to go, but some of the teachers, administrators, they came down and talked to us. And we were,
I want to see who that is when I get to heaven. I want to see who those kids are.
Yeah.
Hey, did you listen to my song? Did you listen to my song?
Right, kidding. That to me was, we had other startling moments on that trip. We had other startling moments that we could tell, but we have 16 seconds. So we're not going to get to those other stories. But I talk too much, but I'll never forget that moment. That's one of the most impactful moments of my entire life, was that moment. And I talked about it 100 times when Kenny Hopkins sang, Jesus, Jesus, when you hear that golden name.
It
That
was just
was
the
really
one
something.
song we sang for the whole
Yeah.
event. Wow.
And we're going to be recording that tomorrow. Tomorrow, right here.
It's a beautiful
All right.
song.
We've reached the end of Why We Are Christians, the third one in a row that has to do with the Jesus People movement. And I hope you'll be looking for all of the programs. So long.